Playing for pride, now that's a phrase that you're going to hear very often, at least till the end of this group stage of Cricket World Cup 2019. That after 4 teams have been eliminated. We're going to be talking about 2 teams out of those 4 that have been eliminated. Inconsistency, that's another thing that's common between West Indies and Sri Lanka, and that's the game that we're building up to. It's game number 39 at the ICC Cricket World Cup. I'm Nikhil Naz, you're watching ESPN Cricinfo Match Day, and we've got a full house. Tillakaratne, Dilshan and Daren Ganga join us on live link. In studio with me, Ajit, Agarkar, Dan Vettori. Ajit coming back after a brief layoff, a bit of a holiday, but he's now back to be discussing the first dead rubber of this Cricket World Cup. So without further ado, Dilshan, I'll start with you. The obvious question now, because it's a dead rubber after that result where England beat India, Sri Lanka have been knocked out. How is it that now the team motivates itself going ahead in this World Cup?
Yeah, I think everyone is really sad. Fans and Sri Lankan ex-cricketers, everyone, it's not good news. But now we have to get 2 more games. We have to play positive way. Throughout the tournament, we didn't play well. Not in this tournament, past few tournaments also, we are not playing well. I think that they are same things they carry for the World Cup. I think totally disappointed the team as well, I think. Now they have to play, nothing to lose now. They have to play full 100% positive cricket next 2 games.
Okay, we saw with these 2 teams flashes of brilliance. West Indies showed it against Pakistan, and then Sri Lanka showed it against England, and that is what it is. Ajit, I come to you. We are talking about inconsistency after those 2 performances. Sri Lanka beating one of the tournament favourites in England. You would have expected better, but just failed to live up to that expectation.
Yeah, I mean that's the word. In a 9 games that you get to play in a World Cup, you'll have to be consistent. I think even England struggled in this World Cup, and they're scrambling to get into the semi-finals at the moment. Yeah, must be tough. What you can look at this game is there are lots of young players in that squad still who can gain a lot of experience in these games that are left and experience going forward. I know 4 years is a long time, and you don't quite know who's going to end up. But still, there's a lot to play for, and there's a lot of pride, definitely. I mean, these 2 teams, West Indies is similar. Bit surprised where they've eventually ended up because on paper looks a very good team. So lots to play for. I know for the tournament it's a dead rubber, but for both teams I think there's still a lot to be gained.
For those of you who are wondering why is it that Sri Lanka are out even though they can get to 10 points, we'll take a look at the points table and try and explain why that is the case. Yes, they could be tied on points with England. That is, if New Zealand were to beat England and then Sri Lanka were to win their 2 remaining games, they'll be tied on points, but it's the number of wins. So Sri Lanka can only get to 4 wins and England already have 5. So before you look at the net run rate, you actually take a look at the number of matches won, which is why England is ahead. So Sri Lanka now have no chance of qualifying for the semi-finals. Dan, just looking at this, I know the fans would be disappointed, as Dilshan also pointed out, but somewhere deep down inside, they would have known that this is the fate that was waiting their team. I'm just looking at the performances of these 2 teams in the year that's gone by. 3 wins out of 14 in ODIs for Sri Lanka, 5 out of 15 for West Indies. So clearly, even coming into the tournament, you really didn't expect them to make the semis.
Yeah, I think expectations were low for Sri Lanka, mainly because of around the team they selected. They chopped and changed a lot. They had some inexperience. Cricinfo came into the captain's side where no one saw that coming. So I think there was a lot of turmoil leading into this tournament, and therefore that led to low expectations. I think West Indies are almost the flip side of that. I think they came in with incredibly high expectations. They were playing so well before the tournament. Their batsmen were on fire, scoring a lot of runs. So they're probably in a more disappointed state than Sri Lanka would be. Sri Lanka still had a chance before the results yesterday, and they've got some positives. Beating England is a huge result. So they'll look forward to the future, whereas West Indies will be a little bit confused as where they're at.
Okay, as Dan says here, there were expectations out of the West Indies team. They had firepower in their ranks as well. So what is it that exactly went wrong for them? Let's take you live now to Durham. My colleague Alexis Nunes joins us there, and we're going to be reviewing West Indies' performances in the World Cup so far. Joining her is Michael Holding.
Well, Nikhil, it's going to be pretty hard to top the atmosphere that was England up against India yesterday. But Mikey Holding and I are going to try, of course. It's the West Indies up against Sri Lanka. Some would say this probably is a dead rubber, Mikey. So we're going to do a mini little post-mortem plus a to-do list for the West Indies. Let's start off with a post-mortem and what you think, or how would you describe the campaign that we saw start so brightly with that win against Pakistan and then end up to where we are today?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were very enthusiastic about the West Indies team and very hopeful that things would go well after that game against Pakistan and even after the loss against Australia. I think everyone recognized from that game that although they lost, they could compete. But everything went downhill from there. And I think a lot has to do with, number one, team selection. We kept on talking about that, Alexis.
Yes.
Team selection and also attitude towards batting. I don't think enough batsmen have learned how to construct an innings properly over a long period of time.
Well, many people also were talking about the, I guess, over-reliance, or which you can't really blame them given the person who Andre Russell is and how he is and how destructive he is on his day. But do you think that that reliance and the risk to continuously keep playing him affected it somewhat, the campaign?
No, I don't think so. You know, the game against Australia, I blame him to a degree for the shot that he played when he got out to Mitchell Starc. If he had controlled himself a little bit better, we could have won that game. But after that, a lot of things went wrong. And Andre Russell in the team or not, I don't think we approached a lot of things correctly. I wouldn't blame the lack of Andre Russell being in the team as a real problem.
All right, well, we know that we have a couple of Sri Lankan journalists here today, and they will argue that they are just as embattled or heartbroken as we are with Sri Lanka's campaign in this World Cup. But let's again talk about the West Indies in terms of a to-do list. This match here, even though it is a dead rubber in the sense that West Indies and Sri Lanka cannot qualify really for the semi-finals, but what do you want to see the West Indies do in their approach in this match differently?
What I want to see the West Indies do is show that they are learning. Everything is a learning process. We have a lot of young cricketers in this team, and especially the batsmen. I would like to see them learn how to construct an innings, go out there and bat for a long period of time instead of thinking that they only have 30 or 40 balls to face. That's what I'm hoping to see. I don't think there's a serious problem with the bowling. I think the bowling will learn, of course, but I don't think there's a serious problem there.
All right, well, who'd have thought? Because Mikey Holding thought that the bowling was probably going to be the weaker point coming into this World Cup, and it's turned out to be a strength. So that gives him a little smile on his face. We'll see if the West Indies do indeed take those lessons in this match against Sri Lanka. For now, it's back to you guys.
Thanks a lot for that, Alexis. Joining us live from Durham, from a new ball bowler for West Indies and Michael Holding. Let's now go across to someone who faced the new ball plenty of times for West Indies. Daren Ganga is joining us. Daren, now just listening to Michael Holding, and this is a question that I even asked Dilshan, how is it that you motivate the team now going forward? Listening to the comments by Coach Reefer there, seems like they're already looking at future. They believe they have a young team, so plenty to look forward to as far as how they approach one-day cricket going forward now after this World Cup.
Indeed, it must be something that they take into consideration because you have 2 more matches in a World Cup, I think, as well. This has been the longest losing streak for the West Indies team in a World Cup, so they would want to set that right, get a couple more wins, because if you look at their previous performances in World Cups, I think they've not lost more than six or 7 games in a World Cup. So they would want to make sure they can secure 2 wins to finish this World Cup on a high. In terms of their team and the players, a lot of their young players, I think the average age of this team is about 27. So you would think that some of these players will be around for other World Cups. Still, Chris Gayle in this squad, he has a lot to play for. I think he's about 100 runs shy of becoming the leading run scorer for West Indies in ODI cricket. So those are things I think the West Indies will put their radar on. They haven't played against Sri Lanka for quite a while. The last time would have been in 2016. But there's definitely an investment in young players going forward. There's a series against India, full series, tests, ODIs and T20s. So some of these players you would hope will feature there. So they would want to sort of put their name, right to the top of that list to continue playing for the West Indies.
All right, Daren, stay on with us. Plenty to talk about as far as Sri Lanka versus West Indies is concerned. But now let's turn our attention to what's happening on social media. Joining me for that, my colleague now, Anubhav Jain. Anubhav, other than people talking about MS Dhoni, was he right, was he wrong, people supporting him, criticizing him, what else have you got?
Surprisingly, Nikhil, we only have one post on the whole MS Dhoni-Kedar Jadhav partnership, and that too coming from a very unexpected source, but we'll get to that in a bit. Sri Lanka versus West Indies, with due respect to them, India versus England still seem to be grabbing all the headlines in the world of social media, given the massive implications that the game had. We'll kick things off with Google CEO Sundar Pichai, who was at the game yesterday and is seen here posing with the Master Blaster at Edgbaston. A quick Google search told me that he's a big cricket fan, and before the World Cup had predicted an India-England final, with India, of course, running out eventual winners. Next, we have Virender Sehwag, who tells us that there's been a new addition to the GST. The GST, of course, being the talismanic trio of Ganguly, Sehwag and Tendulkar, which has now become the charismatic quartet of Ganguly, Sehwag, Tendulkar and Lakshman. Next, we have Theresa May, who's a senior catching up on the cricket during one of her visits to the EU Council. She definitely seems a bit more relaxed with the Brexit burden now off her shoulders, and with England reducing the probability of a Crexit, that is them crashing out of the Cricket World Cup. Next, we have the unexpected source that I was talking about, Gary Lineker, who's commenting on the game yesterday, saying very strange end to this game, was great until the last few overs, and then Kevin Peterson responding to him saying, weird, wasn't it? Gary Lineker, believe it or not, at one stage was close to picking a career in cricket over football. Fun fact for you. Next, we have Rohit Sharma, who's providing some comic relief from all the heated discussion that took place yesterday about India's approach in the final few overs. And he was asked by a journalist as to whether he was surprised to see Rishabh Pant come out and bat at number 4. And then Rohit Sharma replying in a cheeky manner, saying, weren't you guys all in support in favor of Rishabh Pant playing this World Cup? And even when Pant was in India, the million-dollar question was, where is Rishabh Pant? Where is Rishabh Pant? Next, we have Michael Vaughan, who says, after yesterday's result, it looks like the semi-final lineup is going to be Australia taking on New Zealand at Old Trafford and England taking on India at Edgbaston. For a change, Michael Vaughan hasn't said something that's very outrageous. Fair assessment on his part, you guys think?
It looks like at this point, I think there's still a bit of cricket to be played. I think Bangladesh might have something to say about that. Pakistan's not quite out yet. So we'll have to wait and see. At least he keeps fluctuating though, depending on England's form.
I'm happy with that. Yeah. I'll take that. New Zealand's in, I'm happy.
You're happy with that? Well, he's assuming that England is going to beat New Zealand in that final game.
That's fine as long as New Zealand's in the semi-finals. That's all that matters at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you'll have to have 2 good days if you have to win the World Cup. Doesn't matter who you play.
He's assuming that New Zealand is going to finish 4th and then Australia is going to be on top. I'm guessing that's what Michael Vaughan is assuming at the moment. Thanks so much for that, Anubhav. Yes, we got an interesting tweet there from one of my favorites as well, Gary Lineker, the funniest man on Twitter. Let's now take you live to Durham, and this is the pitch report with Ian Bishop. All right, we'll still continue talking on our digital platform. Ajit, just looking at these conditions, whatever little we could see even before the game started, finally that English summer where you got bright sunshine was short-lived. It is typically quintessential English with cloudy weather, windy conditions there in Durham.
Seems to have improved over the last hour or so. But as long as there's 100 overs played, which was a bit of a challenge during that first little period in the World Cup, the weather seems to have changed. But if there's usually a bit of wind. I think most grounds are open in England anyway. We've seen teams sort of plan or target certain areas from which were the winds blowing. I mean, yesterday we saw one really short boundary. So we'll have to wait and see if that's the case again. Otherwise, usually Durham's a decent-sized ground.
We saw one game being played there on Chesterley Street. At least the colour of the pitch, the beige colour, is something that probably Sri Lanka would be relishing a little more than West Indies.
Possibly. I think they'll be hoping it turns. I think that's their way to nullify some of the very good West Indian batsmen. They want to utilise their spinners as much as they can. They probably would have brought an extra one in, possibly into their team 11 to have a go against some of the West Indian left-handers. So, look, it's a big game for both teams, albeit that they're out, because everyone wants to finish positively. Everyone wants to talk at the end of the game about how well they did and how they can progress forward rather than have to reflect on another poor performance.
All right, we did see one game being played there. That was Sri Lanka versus South Africa. The few things that came out of that, it wasn't really a high-scoring encounter. And as I said, this pitch is not known to be producing very high-scoring games at the moment that we've been seeing. Okay, that was the pitch report there with Ian Bishop and Simon Dool. But for the moment, we'll take a short break on our show. Plenty to discuss. We'll have the toss up next, but after the short break.
Badminton or tennis, what sport would you have picked if not for cricket?
If not cricket, tennis.
Playing the violin or wicket keeping, the easier job?
Definitely wicket keeping is the easier job.
One lasting memory from your 624-run partnership with Mahela?
Being bowled off an inside edge, but off a no ball when Dilshan was bowling was one takeaway from that partnership.
An old teammate who you felt should have played longer?
Murali.
One motivational line that you used during the 2014 T20 World Cup campaign?
Well, the only thing was, look back at the other 4 finals and hopefully don't repeat it.
Who do you think can equal or break your record of 4 centuries in a row?
Oh, quite a few of them, but Virat Kohli stands head and shoulders above the rest.
Your lasting memory of Malinga?
His action, his hair, and then his 4-in-4 in the 2007 World Cup.
Do you think beaches are cooler than mountains?
Yes, I think beaches are cooler.
Why are beaches cooler than mountains?
Because I like the beach.
The cricket venue that is closest to your heart?
The Galle Test match ground.
A YouTube video of yourself that always makes you laugh?
Always makes me laugh. Well, I think the Sean Pollock YouTube video has been overplayed so many times, but that does make me chuckle.
Family birthdays or batting records, what are you likely to forget more?
Batting records.
A match from the past you wish you could play again?
I think I can pick 4 finals that if we could play again, I would.
One player you think will be a match winner for Sri Lanka in the World Cup 2019?
Well, I think you can't look beyond Angelo Matthews or Lasith Malinga if both are fit and both are playing. They could be match winners for us. Yeah.
Why are left-handed batsmen cooler than right-handers?
We just are. We just are.
Welcome back to ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. We're building up to game number 39. This is Sri Lanka versus West Indies. And without any further ado, let's take you live to Durham. This is Ian Bishop with both the captains for the toss. Right, we continue talking here on ESPN Cricinfo Digital. Daren, coming to you. While the toss takes place, any changes you'd like to see in the West Indies squad?
I made mention of Shannon Gabriel coming into this squad, and that's purely on his impact he's had against Sri Lanka, albeit in the longer format of the game. I said before that these two teams, they've not met in ODI cricket for a while. The last time I think would have been back in 2016 in Zimbabwe. So I think Shannon Gabriel recently in the Test series in the Caribbean against Sri Lanka had a great impact with the ball. He was able to penetrate and get a lot of wickets in that series, 20 I think it was. So I think he will be a good addition to this West Indies squad. Who makes room for him is yet to be seen. I'm thinking O'Shane Thomas from his production of wickets, but that's the only change I foresee for West Indies.
Okay, Dilshan, same question to you for Sri Lanka. Virender Sehwag, I know, is one player that you really want to see. He hasn't played a game so far at the World Cup.
I think this is a good time giving a chance to him and see how he's good. Thing is, still we have to play for win next 2 games and at least put 10 runs in the board points table then before the leave World Cup. I think we have to give a chances to Andisi. They bring Andisi to the main spinner, but they didn't play any single game. We also, I mentioned from the first game, we need a player proper spin in the side. I think it's a good time now to give a chance for him. And other thing, I'm really agree with Dan Vettori said our selection. I think no replacement in the after these 15 members got no one to replace in the middle order or the extra bowler. I think Dan is exactly right. The last moment we picked the side. Some players came to the side. They didn't play two, 3 years, and they came straight to the World Cup. But that's another plus point, less point for us, Sri Lanka. That might be. We at the moment we are in this situation might be other selection as well.
All right, thanks so much for that, Dilshan. All right, that's the latest then from Durham, that West Indies have won the toss and they've decided to field first. That shouldn't come as a big surprise. Dan, coming to you, just looking at the last 5 games that have been played here, this was a no-brainer because 4 times the team that's fielded first has won. Also, with those conditions around, you'd want to bowl first, and that's what West Indies has done.
And I think the West Indies rely on that fast bowling as well. They haven't seen too much spin from them so far in this tournament, and they want to attack the Sri Lankan batsmen early, and that's what we saw in the last game, the way South Africa attacked them, and I think we'll see something similar in this game, and maybe even Holder to come up and open the bowling because he has the ability to move it around. if Daren's correct and they make some changes, then he could be a really good option with his ability to just seam it round.
Okay, whether West Indies have made any changes or not, let's just find out. This is the West Indies playing 11 then for the game versus Sri Lanka. They've made one change. Shannon Gabriel, someone that Daren Ganga wanted, is in, but not Daren. I'm just looking at the player that he's replaced. It's not O'Shane Thomas that you thought would be going out. It's Kemar Roach because he's unwell. What do you make of the team, Daren?
Yeah, I think that's a good team. Given the circumstances, I think Kemar Roach not being well, you'd obviously think that Shannon Gabriel will come in to him. For him, I think the discipline that we've seen from Kemar Roach will be missed for the remainder of this campaign if he doesn't play in that last game against Afghanistan. But he brings us an amount of control and discipline that we didn't really see after the game against Pakistan early in this World Cup campaign for the West Indies. Again, you'd want to see the batting click for this West Indian side. Only Carlos Brathwaite has been able to score a century. As Michael Holding said, you want to see skills applied. You want to see players play the situation more with the bat. We haven't been able to see that. And you want to see them string all three components together. Their bowling, their fielding, their batting. If they can do that, they can definitely secure a win. The one advantage I think the West Indies has against Sri Lanka is not a big power hitting team in terms of six-hitting team. So I think they can probably contain this batting, put pressure on it, and pick up wickets. They've been excellent in power play one in terms of picking up wickets. I think 13 wickets so far in this World Cup. But what happens in the middle period is most critical for Jason Holder. He's got to continue that penetration if this team is to do well against Sri Lanka.
All right, one change there then for West Indies. Let's take a look at the Sri Lankan team, and they've made 3 changes to their playing 11. Let's quickly run you through those changes. Thiramane comes in, Rajitha comes in as well. Suranga Lakmal is out in place of Rajitha. Thiramane is actually come in for Thisara Pereira, and then the third change, which was expected, Jeffrey Vandese coming in for Jeevan Mendes. So a leg spinner goes out, another leg spinner comes in. I'll take it straight to Dilshan. Just looking at this change, you expected Vandese to come in. The only surprising bit, Thisara Pereira is an all-rounder, the one that can get you a lot of runs with the bat as well and pick a few wickets. He goes out for a pure batsman in Thiramane. What do you make of that?
I think this is a very good move, especially when this is a good leg spinner. Is having a chance today. He should prove how he's good, and I think it's a good move for Thisara. Thing is, Thisara and Isuru Udana both are very similar. The thing is, at the moment is Isuru Udana doing really well. I think that's a very good move out Thisara and bring a proper batsman. Thing is, we are struggling throughout the series middle order. I think now it's more experience. Tiriman and Angelo is more experienced 2 batsmen in we have. I think it's a very good move. But little late now, but still I'm happy with this team. Very good move.
Okay, what do you make of Kasun Rajitha coming in? He was not even part of the squad, comes in as a replacement for Nuwan Pradeep, is drafted into the playing 11. Do you reckon this is more based on the fact that Sri Lanka may be looking for the future, trying to test him out? He's just played, 6 ODIs in his career up until now.
But he's done well. He's took couple of wickets. He played less matches, but he's as a bowler, he's very good bowler. He have a lot of future. He's a youngster. I think it's a very good chance giving to him to chance and play at this level and takes more experience. Thing is, we have to now we have to look definitely next couple of years. I think this is a good move for anyway. So Nuwan Pradeep is not well. It's a good opportunity for the Rajitha as well.
Okay, Dilshan as well as Daren Ganga, stay with us. We have plenty more to talk about as far as this game is concerned. For the moment, we'll take a short break. Remember, West Indies have won the toss. They are fielding first. Plenty more on the other side.
I think my best 12 could be Sachin Tendulkar opening with Chris Gale. Not necessarily in batting order, but Ricky Ponting, Viv Richards, Brian Lara, A.B. de Villiers, Gil Chris, who we can use to open the batting and be the wicket keeper. And then the headache starts even a little worse for me now because you have people like, I'll have Shane Warne in it, Wasim Akram for variation, Curtly Ambrose and Glenn McGrath as the 11, and then Muller to run in the 12, and that would be my 12 because of various reasons. I want the 2 spinners in the squad because if the wicket is good enough, I'm going to attack with them. And I think I have enough base with the seamers to cover that as well. Two guys who were probably very close to it was Jack Callis and Joel Garner. And I'm just going by what I've seen and, you know, the guys who I've played with or against.
Welcome back to ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. We're building up to game number 39. This is West Indies taking on Sri Lanka. Yes, it's a dead rubber, but plenty to look forward to for the fans of both these teams because you've got a lot of youngsters participating in this particular encounter. Now remember, Sri Lanka are batting first. That's because West Indies won the toss and have decided to field. And one area of concern for Sri Lanka has been their middle order. If you take a look at their top order, they always tend to get you the runs. But this is in overs 1 to 10 at Cricket World Cup 2019, and look at that, Sri Lanka have the best run rate there, 6.6, because we've seen their top three, even with Avishka Fernando coming in, that's really done well for them. And the two openers in Karunaratne as well as Pereira are the ones that have been getting them plenty of runs. But as far as the middle order, that's what I was talking about. That's where is the area of concern for Sri Lanka. Now take a look at that. This is the worst run rate in overs 11 to 40, and you take a look at that, it's just 4.2 is the net run rate, an average of 17.4. Then I come to you on this one. I mean, yes, you could have a low run rate when you're trying to consolidate, but then you got to up your average. Both things not going together, clearly not working for Sri Lanka.
Actually, quite surprising that they have such a high strike rate in those first 10 overs because they've come across a couple of tricky wickets early in the tournament.
Yeah.
Remember New Zealand versus Sri Lanka on a green one. So, and also the fact that Cricinfo is not known for his aggressive play, but I think the addition of Avishka Fernando has really helped that. He's played in a really positive manner, and that's helped. But the flip side is how poorly they've played in those middle overs. And I think in a lot of ways you expect the Sri Lankan team to be quite strong through that. They play spin well, or in the past they've played spin well. So it's just getting that balance right, and I think that's what happens with inconsistent teams. They never quite get all three facets right, whether it's batting, bowling, and fielding, and all facets of the innings as well. So look, they haven't been able to stumble onto that formula. They get another chance today, but it'll be a tricky one in these conditions against West Indies.
If Ajit, someone's trying to look for reasons why Sri Lanka haven't made the semi-final, this particular stat, if you take a look at the middle order, firstly, out of number 4 to 7, only one man's got a half century in about 20 innings combined, and that was Angelo Matthews. He got that. Other than the best strike rate is at 63, so you're not getting total amount of runs as well as not pushing the tempo there.
Yeah, and you could see clearly that was the problem at the start of the tournament. I think they got decent starts, just couldn't do anything in that middle order. Unfortunate for them, had a couple of games which got rained off, never really got any rhythm, made life even difficult. I mean, when you're not in form, you want to try and get in the middle and spend some time in the middle, which wasn't the case. I mean, Angelo Matthews, obviously, everyone would be expecting him to have the sort of tournament which you expect your senior or more experienced guys to have. He hasn't quite had it. I mean, it seems to be getting better. Unfortunately for them, it's been a bit too late, and there haven't been enough runs for their bowlers to defend, or haven't been able to chase down the scores that they've been set.
Dilshan, just asking you, we're talking about the middle order for Sri Lanka. Karunaratne came out and said that they're lacking confidence and that's why you're not getting too many runs. But what do you make of their attitude as well? Do you see a lot of intent from these players, the middle order?
I think they are carrying a bad form throughout the and before as well. I think they are carrying this tournament as well. I think now they should play positive. I mentioned earlier also they should try to bat positive way, and at least that strike rate should go over 70. Everyone very low strike rate. At least now they try to do their strike rate more than 70. Then he can pass some more than 270, 275 runs in the board. Then enough runs for the bowlers to bowl out.
All right, Dilshan, thanks so much for that, because as we were saying, that was the problem area for Sri Lanka. One way that they could have fixed that particular problem area is probably send someone like a Thisara Pereira, who was batting a bit lower down, one who can really push the run rate, but now he's dropped off that playing 11, so that's an option that now they can't exercise as far as this particular game is concerned versus West Indies. That's all that we have for you at the moment, building up to this game between Sri Lanka, West Indies, and remember, both teams are out, but plenty to look forward to as far as what they do in the future. Thanks so much for joining us. Okay, but we've got plenty of time to discuss the other big news that's happened in the World Cup so far. Ajit, I'll come straight to you. Vijay Shankar is out and his replacement is Mayank Agarwal. Firstly, I'm just going to talk about Vijay Shankar's injury. That injury actually happened before the game versus West Indies. And then he played a game after that. Suddenly, can an injury like that flare up for him to really be ruled out?
It's possible. I mean, it must have made it worse when he's played the next game. That's the only way you can think about it. Nobody knew he was injured. Unfortunate for him. I know he's copped a lot of criticism unfairly sometimes, but that's the way it goes. I think last thing you want is to be injured and out of the tournament. So nobody knew how bad it was. I mean, he carried the drinks yesterday against England, so clearly didn't look that bad, but has to be something that's... Sometimes you can develop a stress reaction for all you know. So we'll have to wait and find out a bit more how bad it is, but clearly not good enough to be in the World Cup.
Right. Now, the reason we're looking for conspiracy theories is the fact that you've replaced a middle order batsman in Vijay Shankar with an opener in Mayank Agarwal. Is it probably an indication that India was struggling with the opener ever since Shikhar Dhawan got out? And if Mayank does come in, he's probably going to open. Probably that is the reason they've got an opener and then KL goes back into the middle order. Solve that puzzle?
I think so. I think it gives them some options. I think Mayank can bat anywhere from 1 to 6, so he is the sort of batsman. His list A record's fantastic. He can come in and offer some options, but I think you're right. Ultimately, they want someone who can possibly come in for KL Rahul if he continues to be out of form, or if his injury is worse than anticipated from the last game. So I think it's a very good selection because it gives India some options.
Okay, let's take a look at Vijay Shankar's ODI record now. Remember, he was considered a three-dimensional player by the Indian selectors, which is why he came into the team in the first place, but now has been ruled out. This is his batting record, as you can see in ODI cricket. 8 innings that he's played, an average of 31, decent strike rate there at 90, his highest score of 46, but really not cutting it as far as the Indian team is concerned. He may be out because of an injury, but that still remained an area of concern for the Indian team because they were still looking for that number 4. You saw Rishabh Pant come in the previous game. Okay, who is he replaced by? It's Mayank Agarwal, who comes in. He hasn't really played an ODI game for India at the moment, but this is his list A record. He's been a giant of sorts in the domestic circuit, getting plenty of runs in the Ranji Trophy. There he's got about 3,000 runs in the 75 innings that he's played, averaging 48 and a strike rate there of 100. And as Dan put it, he's a player that can bat anywhere. Now the conundrum there, Ajit, what do you do when he comes back? Or even if he's not playing in the 11, you played Rishabh at 4. Now, if you were to change the opener and try and get KL Rahul there, how do you now make the playing 11?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, if he is to play in place of KL Rahul, then KL Rahul sits out. I don't think it's... I wouldn't want KL Rahul batting at number 4. I think we've seen he's got a couple of starts when he's opened and he got a 40-odd the other day and another decent score against Pakistan, but hasn't quite kicked on once he's stayed. So to bat him in the middle order at number 4 and bat at the strike rate that he's batted in this World Cup for some strange reason, because a guy with his ability should be able to accelerate once he's in for 40 or 50 balls. So I don't think they should make too many changes in the middle. That might well happen. Again, like Dan said, he could. You don't quite know what the extent of his injury or his back injuries which he sustained against England. So maybe they want Mayank Agarwal as cover. But at least it gives them options. I know people would have said that a middle order batsman going out, you've got to replace him, but there's already Dinesh Karthik sitting in the squad. So this is a better option.
I think they want someone to bat like Jason Roy. I think they want that person to come in and be aggressive, and KL Rahul can do that. We've seen that in the IPL thousands of times. He comes out and he almost has no regard for bowlers. He can go hard. Mayank can do the same sort of thing. And when they have that type of player, it complements what Rohit and Virat are about. And they can take up some balls while Mayank or KL, whoever it is, takes aggressive. So take a leaf out of Jason Roy's book because it changes the whole dynamic of the game as we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and whilst he's not tested in one-day cricket, Mayank, he's one of the most improved players we've seen over the last couple of seasons, maybe 3 seasons in Indian cricket. Even the test that he played in Australia, played a couple of really good fighting innings when India needed him to when India batted first in that Melbourne test. So he's shown he's got the temperament for it. I know this is a massive stage and there'll be a lot of pressure, but at least he comes into this tournament with a lot of pedigree behind him.
Have you spent some time with him in the IPL at the RCB?
I have. I've played with him and coached him. He's a fantastic player, and he's a really lovely person as well, and he'll do anything that's required in that setup. He fields well. He's improved his game, as Ajit said. He was so impressive during that Australian Test match series, and I think if given the chance, he'll continue to improve. And whilst I said his record was good, his one-day record is amazing. His list A, I can't believe it is actually that good. You know, striking at 100, average close to 50. So I think you get a confident player where he comes in, whereas possibly Kale at the moment is trying to find his game. So if they do make a brave move and change, then I think they've got a good replacement there.
Yeah, his actually 4-day record is even more impressive compared to his list A record. Ajit, but try and put yourself now in Ambati Raidu's shoes, because first he was ignored. He was a regular number 4, ignored, saying we needed a 3-dimensional player. Then you've got replacement after replacement. He was also named as one of those standby players, but doesn't get
First
a
he has to impersonate Karthik. What would Karthik say in this situation?
No, I don't know.
Karthik would have been livid.
Karthik loves riding.
No, he would have been livid. But
Yeah.
Karthik's explanation was that if you've told a guy that you're the backup and that you're going to be getting him, and he's had similar sentiments about someone like a DK as well, if he's in the squad of Vijay Shankar.
But in the same way, then I think Rishabh Pant was the first backup, if I'm not wrong. So it's not as if he's gone ahead of Raidu. Here you can kind of understand. Raidu might feel hard done by because they named him as a substitute or a first replacement now. But they've gone for an opener because one, your opener struggling, and two, again, we don't quite know what the extent of Rahul Singh. I mean struggling as in he hasn't quite gone on and got the big one. And at this point, India needs someone. So they've looked. Dinesh Karthik is already in the squad. If you need someone to come into the middle order, you've already got an option. So I think that as hard as it might sound on Raidu, this is what the requirement of the team is right now, and I think it's a good move.
Did that game versus England really now show the Indian team how much they're missing someone like a Shikhar Dhawan, and that was one of the crucial reasons why we saw that difference between the two teams?
I think so. I think Shikhar's experience and obviously his performances in ICC World events, I mean, have been sublime. He's been one of the form players for a long, long time. Their left-hand, right-hand combination, and he's the sort of guy who can play a style that India need. And I think he takes direction really well in terms of he needs to be aggressive, he needs to knuckle down, he can do all those different things. And once again, his record's fantastic. So now you get to see when in these big games, when you miss those experienced players, as players who've done it before, who have that record, I think they'd do anything to have Shikhar Dhawan back in the side.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us, Dan Vettori, as well as Ajit Agarkar. Remember, we were building up to game number 39, but just if you want to participate, make your own predictions of who's going to win between West Indies and Sri Lanka, you could go on to ESPN Cricinfo and participate in Cricket Picks, and this is how you can play.
Put your tipping to the test. Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions and track your progress throughout the tournament. The easiest thing you'll do all day. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today.
All right, now this is the predictions made by our panelist here. The only one who's gone for Sri Lanka is Dan Vettori, Ajit Agarkar, Daren, Ganga, Graham Swan, Sharan Hafiz, Albi Mokkal. Ajit, I'll ask you a quick question on that. Yeah. Dan seems to be doing his homework. The last 5 ODIs these two teams have played, Sri Lanka have won 4. You forgot that.
Yeah, I couldn't pick a winner, to be honest. I just gone with my gut. Unfortunate. I picked West Indies as one of the semi-finalists, the 4th team after India, Australia, England. So it's real shame how they've quickly fallen off. I think the first couple of performances we've seen, they've got the players. Unfortunately, they've shown the worst side of West Indies in the last couple of games. And like Daren said before, you want them to show their skill sets, but for a longer period of time. At the moment, I think we've seen them sustain it for 50 overs throughout this World Cup, and that's what's cost them. But they've got enough quality and good toss perhaps to win. We'll find out soon. That could trouble Sri Lanka.
Okay, looking forward to the youngsters then for West Indies, the likes of Hetmeyer, Pooran, as well as Shai Hope, the future of West Indies cricket. How is it that they perform under such circumstances when they're actually playing a dead rubber now? And finally, this Cricket World Cup, why just watch the match when you can play too? Check out the Hotstar Watch and Play, a super cool innovation that lets you invite your friends, predict every ball, chat about the match, all in one place. And if winning the prediction isn't enough, you get to win amazing prizes too. That's all that we have for you on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. Remember, West Indies have won the toss, would be bowling first. So you'll have the Sri Lankan openers out very soon. This being a dead rubber, game number 39 coming up.